he always delivers art late. It's always wet. And we always fight about it. One show, I told him, I go, this is the deadline, right? And he's like, I'm finishing. And I said, what's the size, right? So I can, and what it is. So he tells me the size. And then his wife shows up with a painting 4 times as big. And I already hung the show, and I always like, honestly, just because he's so good, I have put up with this bullshit. Because if it was somebody else.
Like who? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to say. You told me not to be mean, so. But
you can be as mean as you want.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Waiting to Dry, the art podcast that proves again and again we are the most entertaining, least informative one that you can listen to.
That's just like your opinion, man.
My name is Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
And we have Irene from WonderlandSF today.
Shout out, Irene. Yay!
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
No, I was kind of harassing you until you finally invited me.
I know you're the first, I said this right before we started, but you're the first gallery owner person that we've had on, other than, I think the only person we have had on that isn't an artist is the Treckle Brush Company. Mm-hmm. But other than them, you're the only non-artist.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I've known you forever, I feel like. Pretty early on.
Yeah, you were not even 21.
No.
Yeah, we were sneaking into where we were used to have the shows. Mm-hmm. It was at 21 and over, so we were sneaking you in.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, so now... Yeah, I mean, one thing is, like, on this show, I seem to talk a lot of shit about galleries just because I think there's, like, a weird relationship between gallery and artist. But you're, like, the one gallery I'm like, except for I love Wonderland. Like, that's, like, the one... I mean, I'm not trying to talk mess about galleries, but they're the ones they're the ones that or you're the one that I'm always like, that I work with regularly, that I'm like, I just feel like you put such an effort and you have such a passion for the artist that there's like a, like we both play. Okay. No, it's all right. We'll edit this out or not, whatever. People know. We gotta close the door so we don't get barking. It's all right. You brought your dog to Noach, and he's sad that he's not part of the interview. So whatever.
Sorry.
It's all good. But it's like that whole like. I think what happens is we both have a gallery and artist. We both kind of play. We have a. What's the when things live together?
Oh, like symbiotic relationship. A
symbiotic relationship, where we both help each other out. And sometimes you don't feel like that's kind of the case. I'm sure on both ends. Probably galleries feel the same way when some artist kind of screws them. But on the artist end, you kind of feel that sometimes. But at least for me, it's like with you, I've always felt like you put such an effort and you are so passionate specifically about the arts that it just translates, and I don't know. Should we pause real quick and put him in the backyard?
I
don't know where we left off. Just that you're so passionate about the arts. Yeah. And you're also like, one thing I noticed about you is like, at least for the Wonderland Gallery, you're so supportive of like young artists coming up. Maybe they're not like 100% figured out their, whatever they're figuring out, but you still give them kind of like love and attention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really knew early on, because when we started doing the chillin', that it was 200 artists and,
right.
I mean, at that point we were giving everybody an opportunity and we I wanted to do something a little bit more edited. Mm-hmm. But, I can see like the potential in people. And, we talked about because if we don't give an opportunity to artists, there is no growth, and for me, like I told you, the perfect example is MJ, how much she has grown as an artist is very, very impressive.
Right.
And she's so good. And if we don't open doors to people like that, we're missing out. And I'm tired of looking at
She's all right.
Well, you know.
I'm just kidding.
But like Facebook, Google, when they do the murals, it's like the same artist, and it's like there is so much talent out there, and there is not a platform for them. And I mean, that is a concern of mine. That we have so many talented people that if you don't have the personality to sell yourself, you're screwed.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing that's kind of like refreshing with you. I feel like you're such a good salesperson, where at least for me as an artist, that's like the thing I probably dread the most is like trying to sell my work. So, when you work with a gallery, for me, it's like, I hope you can deliver the charisma or the whatever it takes to sell work that I can't do myself. Maybe I can help a little bit if I talk about my art with people, but still it's like there's that weird salesmanshipness that I just don't have that is tricky.
But that is why you give me 50% of your money, right? And that's my job,
Yeah.
And that's what, when we talk about galleries, is like my job is like looking for people. I am at the gallery every day, and I see what people like and don't like. And when I see I have a collector that I know that his taste kind of fits with, your work or your work, I'm like, come and check it out. You're going to love this person. Or when you deliver work and I know Vince is going to love it, I text him a picture immediately. That is my job.
Shout out to Vince and Barrett.
Yeah, they're keeping us all alive. Thank you.
But yeah. I mean, how is it as far as like the gallery? How is it being the person having to work with? I don't know. Like now, like I don't know how the amount of artists you work with on one single show sometimes, but it's a pretty large number.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, my rent is really high. So unfortunately, when I book shows, it would be great to just do like a 2-man show or a 1-man show, but my rent is so high that I can't think that way, and you have to adjust because I have to pay my rent. But for me to keep giving opportunity to people, I have to be able to pay the rent, So, yeah. I mean, usually the shows are about 15, 20 people, because that at least I know that I will sell for sure some work. And also, I mean, as much as I hate it, I do have to bring some more commercial stuff that, it's a no-brainer that is not dark stuff or very thought-provoking because, some people don't get it, but I still, and also, I think that is very hard is that most of our shows are themed. So people pin me something. So sometimes I see stuff that I just really don't like. And I don't have the personality to be like, oh, no, sorry, here, take it back. Because they work so hard for me that it's hard to not take the work. And that's the hard part also, that doing theme shows that you don't know what you're going to get versus me coming to your studio and saying, I want this, and this, and that,
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you're saying the artist should stop sucking sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, there's always in a show 100% like a piece that I look at and I'm like, ugh. But then some people love it, so that is like,
For sure.
what do I know?
Have you ever like flat out rejected a piece like that? Like they brought it to you and just like, no, I just can't take this.
No, but I've learned also, I don't think I need to hurt anybody's feelings, So maybe I haven't like rejected it, but I would say like, oh, we have way too many pieces. And normally artists bring in more than one piece. So I can be like, I don't have the room for that. Or if an artist approaches me that I want to show, instead of saying, oh, no, I don't like it or something, I try to be nice about it and be encouraging, because who am I? Like I said, I mean, I know what I like and what works for me, but that doesn't mean somebody else is not going to like it.
For sure. Yeah. How did you get into this?
Well, so, my dad, he's an artist.
Right.
And
your mom as well, right?
Yeah. But she started when we moved to the United States. But my dad, and especially growing up in Mexico, that when we grew up, art was not that important. And he translated art into a business. He designs cars. But he's amazing. Like, he doesn't paint from a photograph, or he paints from his head.
Right.
And I think that's amazing.
For sure.
And both of my parents have always been really passionate about art. And then when Houston lost his job, we started doing a happy hour at 111 Mina Gallery.
Okay.
And it was every Tuesday. And I've always been very passionate about my community and giving opportunities. So we started these Tuesdays that we would feature new artists. And I mean, if you talk to Eric Joyner, Brian Barnacle, like they've never shown before, and we show them there for the first time, you know? So it's exciting to move forward 20 years later and see, you know, that they're doing so great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. When I think of like people you've worked with where they kind of, you know, got their start showing with you, there's a impressive list of artists. Even when I think Sergio posted on the Instagram, like, oh, we're going to interview Irene. You see like the love from like amazing artists, you know, being like, awesome. Like they're stoked too. And it's like,
Yeah. And I mean, but you know, like talking also like for me, also the same time, knowing that, you know, we supported a lot of people and, you know, like 90% of the people are so grateful. And, you know, for the last show that we're doing, I invited people that, you know, they're signed, they cannot really show in galleries, and they're like, look, I'm going to make sure it happens, you know?
Right.
Wow.
And then it's kind of funny because there was like one artist that I don't even work with anymore that has not gone anywhere, but I felt like he was part of the Wonderland family at one point. And when I reached out, it was like kind of rude, you know? And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You know, like, you know, like I did this because I extended the invitation because I wanted to feel like I appreciated everybody that worked with me, because I feel like artists are giving me the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative of the artist, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So about that. So yeah, you've had Wonderland how many years now?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And you're coming on your last show pretty soon.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like heartbreaking because, you know, like I met my wife there and like a ton of people. Like it's like my go-to favorite place to just hang out with artists. So it's like, I don't know. So for me, it's like this thing that's coming up, this show, June 1st, that I'm like really looking forward to. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm going to be like crying and laughing and
I mean,
shit-faced drunk.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a hard day for me for sure. But I feel like I've done so much for everybody, but not for myself.
Right.
And I think it's time. And I think that what is next is the artists are going to benefit a lot more. And I will make sure that has that feeling, you know, like actually it was really interesting. The other day, this guy walked in and he said that he loves Wonderland, and he was asking me all these questions, and it turns out that he's opening a space next to Foreign Cinema that is this beautiful, beautiful space. And actually Weinstein Gallery used to own that space. And he seems to really care about the community. And he told me, you know, anytime you want to do something, you know, that space, you know, just let us know. And a lot of people have reached out to me that said that I can use the space to do whatever, you know,
awesome.
I want. So,
Great. Yeah.
you know, I mean, I love curating shows. It makes me so happy. I mean, I buy half of the art myself, you know, and so I cannot imagine my life. You know, my best friends, I mean, the people that I love, I met them all at Wonderland.
For sure.
Or, you know, chilling.
Yeah. Yeah, you were in my wedding.
Yes. I tried to be the best man, but didn't let me.
It's all right. It worked out. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy when I think of like, especially in the art world, my closest friends, it all seems to be, you know, Wonderland related for sure. So I don't know. There is just that like familiarity when you go to your shows. You know, it's like I know I'm gonna go in and kind of like see a ton of people and say hi to a bunch of people that I don't get to see. Especially me being kind of a bit farther out from the city. It's like, oh, I get to go see everyone. So now I'm like, me being selfish, I'm like, oh, but I don't know where I'm gonna get that feeling. But I mean, I'm sure it'll be. I mean, even, you know, like Melanie is moving out. A lot of people are kind of, I don't know. It's depressing. It's San Francisco in general. Sometimes when you think about it.
Well, and my decision to close Wonderland had a lot to do what's happening in San Francisco, because so many amazing artists have moved out of the city, and I was like, the new people, and I don't want to generalize and sound like a hater or whatever, but I feel like the people buying the art is the same people that always buys the art.
Right.
It's very rare when I get like a young techie that comes by and buys a piece of art,
right.
And I feel like, the people that used to, well, not that used to, I mean, they love art, but, the city's so expensive, they cannot afford to buy art. Some of the most amazing people have moved out. So I was like, I want to end on a high note. And I realized that I need to evolve and change with the times and really find a way to help you guys out. And instead of you doing a painting for me and see if it sells or not, it's like, let's find projects where you guys can make money. But I also understand there is that side where you want to paint what you want to paint. And it's like, do I really want to, go and do a mural at Google and have them tell me what to do, and if somebody like you that has a job that, it's like, well, I'm not desperate for the money.
Right.
And I don't want to do that, and I know there will be that.
For sure. Well, yeah.
But, I think there are people that are open, and if it would be kind of cool to allow them, allow you guys to do whatever you want, because then people will fall in love. I mean, I've seen people buy like their first, piece of like Sergio or Joshua, and then, they become so passionate about it and they keep collecting. I mean, they fall in love. So we need to have more platforms for people like you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be awesome. If I can make more money off of art and quit my job I hate. Yeah. So throughout the 10 years, is there a version of Wonderland that you reminisce about or is it always moving forward?
I mean, there are certain shows that I think with a lot of love. And for instance, I don't know if you remember that when I made you guys paint on the wall, continue the painting in the wall.
Oh, yeah.
But also for me, what it was cool about the experience is that I got to hang out with you guys during the process of painting, Yeah.
That was a good one.
And, I mean, I know it sounds kind of campy or something, but I am super passionate about my culture. So sometimes when we do like the Dia de los Muertos or the Lucha Libre, I enjoy it, I do. And also, as like the vinyl show, I know it's like a lot of art and some good, some not so good. But the cool thing about that show is that the art is accessible. So people are able to buy art, and support the artists. And those are like also the shows that we test people out, like people that I was like, I'm not so sure they're ready to show that, since it's so much stuff, it doesn't, it's not that dramatic. It's not so dramatic to the eye,
How does that usually work out? Like with testing people out, do you find?
I mean, I've been, one of like, for me, like a super amazing happy surprise was John Ching that I just wasn't so sure about. And it's freaking amazing, Also, like Luciano Roque, I wasn't so sure at the beginning, and we show him a lot, even like Ian Reynolds, because I did, even Alec Huxley. I mean, I remember when Alec Huxley walked into Wonderland, and he's like, oh, I'm an artist.
Right.
And I mean, he was really good then, but you have seen the evolution. It's amazing. And I mean, when I saw it for the first time, I liked it. But, still the beginning, there was like a little bit of inconsistency, and now it's like, holy shit, and it's been kind of cool to see that he's also experimenting. You still can tell it's Alec Huxley,
right?
And also Monty. I mean, Monty,
right?
I was like, I don't know. And I did. You can ask Monty. I did tell him, why don't you paint those kids with the tattoos?
Right.
Because I saw kind of like a version of it that he did at Mezzanine, and I loved it, And he was not even sure. He's like, well, I'll give you 3, but you don't have to take the 3. And they were really cool. And I mean, people were fighting over it, you know? And that's like what's super exciting to me about artists is when I find an artist that you immediately can tell their style, you know, because there is a lot of people that paint beautiful, but there's nothing to it, you know? And for me, it's like, you know, like I know when I see a Sergio or a Josh Lawyer, you know, and that is even more important to me than how good of an artist you are, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. How does it, when an artist change it, you know, like, because I feel like artists, they'll always like, you know, they'll have like a style and then they'll break free from it sometimes and try to figure out something else that they're kind of a new direction they're trying to go. Is that frustrating as a gallery owner?
You know, yes, sometimes it is. I mean, when I curated like a big show at Mina for the first time, I remember like in my head, I was like, I have like 10 artists that I knew they were going to deliver, like for sure. And, you know, they've always consistently have been painting very specific styles. Right. And Monty brought me an abstract painting. And it was really, it was good, but that's not what I wanted, you know? And that's the other thing about having a very close relationship with artists is that they feel very comfortable taking risks. And because I don't get mad, I don't turn you away. Right. Yeah. You guys tend to take a lot of risks with me, you know, because they know that you can get away with it, which, you know, I guarantee you Micah won't do that. Micah with some artists, you know, goes to the studio and saying, you know, I like more that style, you know. Yeah. He knows what he wants, you know.
This is Micah from 111 Minute. Yeah, I mean, that's tough.
And I mean, sometimes he's like a happy surprise, you know, like, oh, this is super, super cool, you know. Right. And I mean, you know, like for me, I know, like Sergio, what, you know, like I'm super passionate, you know, like what I love, like the piece that I have in my house, I love that style, you know. And, you know, like for you also, it's like one time you brought me a painting of Michael Jackson, you know.
Referenced on the podcast before.
You know, and
MJ hates that painting.
Well, and I mean, it's a good painting, but that's not what I wanted from you.
Right. I mean, you know, but the problem is like, that was the record show, you know? So for me, it's like, I don't enjoy painting on any surface that's kind of not that I have control, you know, that I don't have control over. So painting on a record, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do for this. It was such like I experimented for like a week trying to figure out how to make the surface better than what it was. Cause it's like it's like a weird surface to paint on in general. Cause it's so slick and it's so it's so flimsy that if you might crack paint or something like that. So at some point I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I just was like, well, maybe I'll just have fun with it since I don't. And then I thought, I know there's going to be like 10 paintings of like musicians at their prime. And I was like, I'll just do a musician not in his prime at his worst. And then I was like, I'll just paint Michael Jackson.
But also I guarantee you that because you knew it was me, that it was okay. And if you were showing for the first time at La Luz de Jesus or something like that, you probably would have not done that.
But if La Luz was like paint on a record, I would be like, absolutely not. I don't want to be part of that show. That's the thing. It's like, I will do your show because I love you. But that also means I'm going to do something that I probably wouldn't know. Like if someone comes to me and says paint on something, I'll always say absolutely not, unless it makes a lot of sense. Like, I don't know, like a guitar, you know, like a acoustic guitar that's like a flat wooden surface, and I could prepare, even though I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, it would make more sense for me. You know, it's almost like the equivalent to a wood panel and just a weird shaped wood panel.
Yeah.
But you know, Josh, I feel like now through the years, you know in your mind who you are as an artist. Right. And you know what works for you and what doesn't work for you and how you want to be perceived as an artist, you know? Right. And I think maybe if we go back 15 years ago, you know, probably, I'm not saying myself, like other galleries, you probably would have been more open to experiment with stuff, you know, because you're trying, you know, like, I mean, I remember also like going from the acrylic and what you're doing now with oil and stuff, I mean, it's very different, you know, and it's amazing, you know, and it was amazing when it was acrylic, and now, you know, I didn't think it could get better, and it is better, you know.
Well, thank you.
And I only own one with oil. I need to buy more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's fine.
But you know what I mean is that
you own my favorite oil piece, by the way, I think.
yes,
So-
I love it.
yeah.
I'll put it in my
That's what
will
you're
to you.
talking about.
So it's a good one to own. It's my profile picture on my Instagram.
And I mean, I love my Sergio piece too,
Well,
very,
not as
very much.
Probably not as much. But yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's hard also because I look at you know, as a business as well, you know, and I have to respect when you guys don't want to do something, you know, even though I really, really sometimes want you guys to do something because I think it would turn out great,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
So it is frustrating,
for sure.
but I know it's part of the, you know, like some people are more open to do things for me, and also as I mean, all the artists as they get closer to me, you know, they speak up more. You know, Olympia also, I would tell her like paint this, this, and this, and she would do it. And then at one point she said, "Look, I'm gonna paint what I really want to paint."
Right. Yeah, that's the tricky part. You know, I talk about it a lot because, I mean, Monty, he's way more open to kind of, as if he's getting paid, you can tell him whatever you want and he'll paint it. Where for me, it's like, I just, that's the only thing I don't want. You know, that you can make me go like dig a ditch and pay me for that. But if it's like, I want you to paint this, do it, then I'm like, well, I can't do that. That's not I don't do it for money's sake. Like, I want money for my art. I'm not willing to sacrifice my art for money is kind of the whole.
Well, Amanda Lynn, she told me, I remember, and she was young. She goes, the reason I have a job is because I don't want anybody to tell me what to paint. I'm going to paint what I want to paint.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a job that pays the bills, you know. I think for me, sometimes my concern is that I do know some artists that are completely starving. And sometimes I think instead of going and getting a job at Trader Joe's, which there's nothing wrong with having a job at Trader Joe's or whatever, it's like maybe you have kind of your couture line and you're ready to, you know, what I mean is like you paint what you, and I'm not saying like, oh, you know, paint like rainbows with like, you know, a girl with like antlers in her head and like super sexy, you know, but still in your style. But if you can make money out of it, why not?
Right.
You know, but some people like you and others, they're like, no way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think there is a way. I just think it's a trickier road to go down than, you know, painting something that you think is more commercially viable for, you know, for you, where you're going to be able to sell way more because it's more appealing to the larger number of people, which I have no problems with. If someone wants to paint that way, feel free. For me, it's not fun, and it's not going to keep me motivated to keep painting. It's going to kill my urge to paint rather than, you know, excite me.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the worst that you can do to an artist. You know, like you said, take the joy out of it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's where that's kind of where you start seeing the artists put their guards up, is like, I think you start realizing that, and you start going like, oh, I have to protect myself from, you know, from wanting to just get money and to go this easy route, because it's going to ruin my passion for this thing. So you almost have to like put up guards and say like, I can't do these things. I have to set boundaries where if it doesn't, like, I'm always open to suggestions, you know, like if someone says like, oh, it'd be cool if you painted this. If I think that's a cool idea, I go like, I've had, it doesn't happen like all the time, but every once in a while I'm like, wow, that is a really good idea. I need to write that down. Like I have like 10 ideas floating in my head now based on your little suggestion. But if it's not, then I don't want to take that, you know, it's like if someone gives me a bad advice, I'll just go like, oh no, like, oh, that's not for me.
But the thing then that you have to understand, and you talk about, the gallery situation, is that if a gallery is giving you suggestions, of what they, because at the end of the day, it is a business,
right? For sure.
And, saying, this, when you do this, it's more sellable, whatever. And you choose not to go that way. You can't get mad at the gallery for not selling.
Right.
Because, we try to guide you a little bit, knowing that, we notice, I work there every day. So I hear people talk, and I know, and your work is not dark, and most of your work is beautiful girls. So, I don't think you would have an issue, like that. But I know, like, when, for instance, like Lee Harvey Oswald, he goes dark,
right?
And the painting is ridiculously beautiful and amazing, but it's hard to sell. It takes a very specific, and as he's progressed too, he's gotten darker, and like you said, I can't go back to Lee and be like, dude, when 10 years ago you used to paint,
right?
Like the circus stuff, he's going to go, fuck you.
Right.
And I know I cannot do that, but then I know that I cannot offer him a solo show because I would feel horrible if he goes and paints 6 months for me, and he's hoping he's going to make all this money, and then I cannot do it for him. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling.
Right. For sure.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't like doing solos, because I don't want to let you guys down.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to do solos either.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine with not doing. I don't know if we talked about this, but for me, it's like a solo. I don't know, the older I get or something, the more a solo show has to be like a perfect idea. It's like, and it's almost like I have to go in with the commitment that I know I'm probably not going to make a lot of money, and the gallery hopefully understands that. But the idea around what I'm trying to accomplish is worth the effort and maybe even a loss on both sides for just like to create this piece of work that's, needs to be accomplished or something like that. Other than that, it's like, well, I just want to paint like a painting here and there and put it in a show and have it be seen. But
that one of the reasons, we put the retail in Wonderland was because for me, I always wanted to give you guys freedom.
Right.
So I thought, okay, if I don't have to rely 100% on the art, because doing those projects, like you said, if it's like a dream come true, something that you've been thinking for a long time, and it's exciting to do those shows, and so when it doesn't matter, there's not that pressure anymore.
Right.
That's a good feeling, so that's why I chose to do a lot of the retail, so we can take more risks and experiment more.
For sure. That's cool. I never thought about it that way. But yeah, I mean, you see it. I know like Spoke Art, they kind of have a similar almost mindset, I think, where they have the two galleries. It's like one that's more seriously art and then one that's kind of more playful and like more curated for people that are into pop culture or something like that. And that's the trick. That's kind of like a sad thing about galleries and like an understandable business move. It's like you have to kind of, it's almost like it would be nice to only have where you're really pushing art and being able to just kind of create in a really creative space and not have to rely on an outside thing to kind of supplement what you're not going to make from it. But I'm always curious as to, like why that is. And it seems like it's like a lack of education from from the art to the consumer. Like that's why like things that are more appealing, that are more just visually appealing and easier kind of to understand and more just like based off of like, I don't know, beautiful aesthetic, I think ends up being easier than the things like how you were saying Lee Harvey Oswald, like his darkness or whatever. There's like a lack of understanding between, I think, the viewer of the art and the artist And I'm always curious of how you solve that problem.
Well, and you know, this is like I said, what's happening in San Francisco, that the people that have, like I said, I don't want to generalize, you know, and saying everybody, you know, but, you know, like, because sometimes I talk to interior designers and saying like, look, like an Alec Huxley, a black and white would look incredible in a modern home. And they're like, no, it's too crazy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, they just get these abstract paintings that are with resin on top of it. Yeah. And when you look at it, there's nothing to it, you know. Well, or, you know, I don't understand abstract very well.
It's just wall furniture a lot of times.
You know, or, you know, I mean, I don't know for you, Sergio. I don't know if for you, like your landscapes sell better than the girls. You know, I don't know, because
for the most part, yeah.
Because you don't
more consistently, at least, yeah.
Yeah, because there is, you see, it's like, you know, I've seen guys like look at paintings, right, and they're like, it's like a beautiful painting of a girl, but they're like, well, but does she look like anybody I know? Like, they're trying to have, if they're putting like a portrait in their house, they're trying to find a connection, or and I was like, look, it doesn't matter. It's like, if you look at it and you love it, you know, like, I'm not a lesbian, but you seen like in my house is like mostly paintings of women, you know, but I do love a lot of portraits, you know, and I don't go like, oh, she reminds me of, and I feel like a lot of people with art are trying to, that when they're buying art, they're trying to have that connection. And like you said, it's like how, you know, how you get somebody to connect with like a Lee Harvey Oswald painting, you know, and I have no idea, you know, unless you're like into, I don't know, like sometimes he uses like girls that do the contortionist and all that stuff, you know. And also his art is not cheap, you know, so it's like to spend $6,000 on something that you're like, I don't know if when I see it, I'm going to have nightmares, you know. It is hard, but I like that that's who he is, and he chose, and he's amazing. And there is a niche for that. And with social media now, he's able to reach more people, you know, and even though people get angry about social media, I think it's a great tool for artists, and that you guys don't depend on galleries anymore. You know,
I totally agree.
It's a luxury now. I feel like now being in a gallery, it's more like, oh, you know, it's like a fun project, or maybe to reach out a different audience. But I don't think you guys need galleries as much as a few years ago.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I think, you hear it a lot with artists where they'll talk about how, you know, back like a while ago, there was much more power, and it was much more like of how do I get into these galleries, and it kind of was like almost like a status symbol, you know, like I'm in this. But now with the social media, you do have that freedom to go like, well, let me just go find my audience who connects with my work, and then I can deal directly with them and talk with them, and I don't necessarily have and it's almost like you have to redefine what galleries, even what the purpose of them are. You know, a lot of people say, so you can see art in real life. Like, that's very important. And I agree with that. And it's also like for me, like with your gallery, it's like a community, you know, like there is this real community of artists and collectors and just other people that seem to always come to the shows who you end up meeting, and you just kind of know everyone, and it's just a community of people, which I think is important as well, you know, like really spending time with your peers and having good times and getting drunk, and, you know, maybe some dating each other and breaking up and all the drama that comes along with that, and just the whole, like, it being a community, and there's drama sometimes and there's happy moments. It's just like, and I think the gallery almost ends up being like the church or something, you know, for artists. It's like we all come and gather and hang out. And but
also, I think one cool part of it too is that somebody that has never bought one of your pieces having the opportunity is, I think, is very different to talk about your painting when you're explaining something versus you in a text or, you know, in your Instagram. Because almost every time an artist was able to talk about their piece and explain what it meant, you know, the piece will sell, you know, or you gain like a new collector or a new follower, whatever it is. So I think that is important,
sure.
And also I think one thing that it would be great is for artists and artists that are more popular, if they find artists that they really like, that they're just upcoming, to kind of saying, hey, check out these artists, help each other out and not be so competitive with each other and so catty with each other. I think the negative side of social media is kind of like, this artist is getting this many instead of helping each other out,
For sure. Yeah. That's a good point.
I mean, there is a lot of tension between. It's interesting to watch artists with each other. And
Really?
stuff. Yeah.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising for me to hear as well. Oh, maybe they have a different story when they're around you.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Who
heard.
hates Sergio? Except
Let
for
me pull out the
and-
list.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I love Sergio so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if Josh.
And also, I mean, if there is not those, don't you love when there is good art openings? I just went to. There was a benefit for something in the Tenderloin. I cannot even remember on top of my head, but it was an auction, and all these amazing artists have Jeremy Fish. Everybody donated a piece, and it was Ferry's blog, everybody.
Right.
And it was so amazing to see all that art up close and being able to talk to the artist.
Right.
And that is pretty special.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, no matter how many amazing paintings you see on Instagram,
Right.
being able to look at it in person and talk to the artist and just see how people respond to it, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's I totally. I mean, I think galleries are important. I just think that it is, the social media aspect is nice, especially, I think I talked about this last episode, especially if you're not a part of an art community. If you're in Alabama in the middle of nowhere and you're the one kid who does art, it's I get to be a part of an art community. Maybe I don't get to be face to face and get to see all this amazing work because I don't have the option to, but at least I get to, maybe talk to some of my favorite artists through this thing. And I don't know, those things are really amazing. It's that's cool that you're not limited by how close you are to an art scene. You have any option you want. And I think, we're fortunate to have San Francisco, be an art scene in Oakland as well. And we get to have a number of artists who live in this area and a number of galleries that are, willing to work with artists that are, not super established. So you get to, we're lucky in that way. And I would never want to get rid of that. I love going and seeing art in real life and hanging out with artists and gallery owners and people that are into art and talking about random shit that you'd expect to talk about. But
and Barrett and Vince are the perfect example that they're not in social media,
right.
And they support you guys so much, and they make such an effort, and it's I'm sure you consider them your friends or
sure.
or Mark Lynch,
yeah.
or Damien, this is people that I met as collectors,
right.
and I consider them now part of my family, and without a gallery that would have never happened.
For sure.
You know? So, I think it's time to maybe people be able to, like you said, social media is very important, and especially in places where, like you said, you live in the middle of nowhere, right. That you can, and also that, thank God you're cool enough that I'm sure if an artist sends you a DM, saying, hey, how do you do this? That you're open about that,
Sometimes.
Yeah. You don't give your secrets up?
No, I mean.
To your wife, you do?
I get. It's only if they ask me what pencil I use, and don't any of you listening send me this. I get so many podcast listeners that are giving me crap about this question now. But I get the what pencil to use a crazy amount.
So what pencil do you use?
I don't have a specific pencil. That's the thing. I'm like, I don't know. I use a Draftmatic sometimes.
Quit playing.
So how about Draftmatic? I'll give you that. I don't know the names of them. I literally just go into the store and I'm like, I like how this one looks, and I grab it.
Do you use the old Pentel Graph Gear 3000?
Is that the one that goes into itself?
No, it's the one with the silver tip to it. It's got a grip.
What color?
It's usually the grip is silver, and
Because the Draftmatic is silver.
I think most
That's what-
mechanical pencils are probably
That's
silver
what I'm
grip.
like, I don't know. This is boring talk.
Whatever.
No.
But I don't know. I literally, I will try out, I'll grab a pencil, I'll put it in my hand. I'm like, this one, the thing I pay attention to the most is like the very tip to see, I look at it to kind of see how strong it looks. Because I don't want it to bend or else I won't be able to get lead out of it unless I try to correct that. And it's super tough too.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, does this one look tough? All right, I'll try it out. I don't know. But people are so like, that's the thing that annoys me is like, instead of asking me about what pencil I use, ask me something
You
else
should just
like,
ask them back, how big are your hands? And that could be a better recommendation.
someone just asked me that the other day. They're like, what they say? They said something, and they're like, also, how big are your hands? And I was like, huge. I don't know.
to put a penny next to it.
Yeah.
Are your paintings now? They're full on just oil, or are you doing a little bit of mixed media in there? No.
Because I do like drawings on lunch, and I've mixed those to like loose sheets of paper, so I can sell like cheaper things to, people that can't afford my oil paintings because they're priced higher. So this is like my way of trying to figure out how to let people that aren't like trying to buy a print and have a little bit of money, not a crazy amount, but like $250. It's like it's affordable. It's not the biggest piece, but at least you'll get like an original piece that I will never print because I'm never going to print my doodles. But
Yeah. I mean, I love the stuff when I see the junior sketchbook. I'm like, can I have it, please?
I know.
That would be a nice go away Wonderland present. It's like giving your babies away, isn't it?
I mean, that's why I moved to loose paper. So if someone wants it, they can buy it. I'm going to go back and forth. So I'm still going to use my sketchbook, but I'll use that too. So I have, because I love having sketchbooks from my past and looking through and seeing how much I've grown and all those kind of things. So that's the only art I want to keep of mine. So that's why I'm trying to figure out that whole, like, people seem like they really want them, but I'm not willing to sell these. Maybe I should figure out how I can sell some and still kind of stay in my sketchbook, and I don't know. It's a thing. There's some. I mean, I've finally found paper that I really like. People are bugging me about that now. I gotta post that so they can leave me alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love sharing process and things like that with people. If someone says like, how do you start a drawing? I will go in for like, I don't know, 5 paragraphs where I'm just trying to break down my process. If you ask me what kind of pencil I use, I'm going to be like, nah, I don't care about this.
But what about like tricks? Would you give your secrets on like...
Yeah, I'll give away anything. You want to know how to do this technically? Yeah, I'll tell you how I do it. Like I don't think that'll like somehow make my art suck. If someone gets better, I'm like, to me, that's not. I'm not trying to be like, there's no. I don't think there's any techniques I use that are specifically unique to my work, and that means that everyone kind of can figure it out. Their art's going to be totally different than mine,
Have you guys find artists that try to copy your work?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they'll like at me and go like, or they'll tag me like, hey, look, I'm drawing like you or whatever. And I'm like, oh, cool, man. I don't really care too much. I don't really care at all, actually. So unless they start getting really good, I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Well, and I know
Closing
that...
up my secret shop.
Well, it's, like, people say, oh, like try to copy like Mark Ryden or,
Right.
like...
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point, I think, when it stops being cool. And I think that point is when you start showing in galleries and things like that. You know, when you start selling your work and you're like obviously copying someone, that's when I kind of go like, okay, well, you've taken it too far. Like especially if it's like a developed style where it's very unique to the person, you go like, all right, well, you're just now copying that person.
But what about like somebody like Kim Kogan, right? That, I mean, you can recognize his work very easy, but also...
He's very academic kind of idea.
And I mean, at the academy, a lot of people learn to paint like that. So does that mean people are copying his work? You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's tricky, I think. That's more of like, I think, more harder to kind of pinpoint. What I mean is like, if someone's trying to paint like Audrey Kawasaki or someone like that, you're like, all right, her style is so defined that when you do it, it's very, very obvious that you're copying her. And if you're starting to show in galleries, that to me is, it's annoying on a lot of levels, because for me, I do put like, there is a part of me that goes, the gallery is responsible for what they're doing. You know, they should be aware that that's copying, and they should push back against that and say like, oh yeah. And then I think the artist community in whole should also, artists being like, that's not cool. And I think the artist, you know, it's kind of those things of like, you hear a lot in the comedy circles, you know, comedians, someone's stealing a joke or things like that, they'll call them out and say like, you can't do that. Or there's like everyone kind of like excludes them out of the community. And I think that's kind of important, because it checks the artist and goes like, I even though I respect the artist and I love the work, that's why I ended up copying them, I need to figure out my own path.
Yeah.
And it can't be the exact path that person took. You know, you can be inspired and kind of learn, but then at some point you have to figure out your own thing. But yeah, it's tough with like very academic painters, because I think what happens is a lot of them, if they all come out of like the academy, there's like a certain way they all kind of learn to paint. Right. So then if you both pick the same subject matter, then it ends up being like not that easy to point out. Is he copying him, or is this just like, you know, kind of, that's where it becomes a little more tricky, I think.
Well, I mean, I remember Jeremy Mann like a couple years ago that he was calling somebody out. And I mean, the thing is that I think when I think about Jeremy Mann, it's like you see, you know, even though a lot of people do like this wet cityscapes and whatever, but there is something that you can tell it's a, you know, like a Jeremy Mann. And that's what makes artists super special. You know, that, like you said, it's this little thing, you know, that sometimes it's like you don't even know what it is, but you know that's that person. Yeah, that's the tough thing, I think, to put your finger on and figure out as an artist in general. You heard a lot, like people ask like, oh, how do you develop a style? And you're like I don't know how to answer that question, but it seems like Jeremy Mann, I always say the reason I think he's special is because he got very comfortable at like, he must have been very comfortable at being uncomfortable for a good amount of his painting career. Yeah. To where he...
Yeah, I think he said that before. Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. See? But I think it's visible through his work. That's the thing, is like you can almost see, at least to the trained eye, you can see like, oh, he can take a risk really well, you know, and that makes his art great. Where that meant he took a lot of time developing how to take risk until it got comfortable, and he was like, oh, now I'm not afraid of what I'm doing here or something. And you can kind of see that in his work. But
I mean, he also, and that's a reality when it comes to art, that there are people that are very gifted. Right. And he has that, or you have that. I see people that work so hard, and that but there is not that easiness to it. You know, I can tell your paintings, they're not like, there is an easiness to it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I was thinking about that the other day, because I was talking, when we had the show recently, I was talking to a guy, and he was like, yeah, he's like, you didn't go to school, right? And I'm like, no. And then he was like, that's crazy. I went to art school, and I've done it for years, and I will never be as good as you. And I'm like,
it's true.
I don't know why that is.
Oh, some people can sing, some people cannot sing, right? It's the same.
What I think it is like the way certain people learn is what I think. I think some people learn, like for me, I just learn weird. I don't know how to I've talked about this before, but it's like the way I think about things and learn things, it's all like I didn't know it was weird till I realized it was weird, and I'm like, oh, normal people don't think like this. And then I contribute that to why I'm good at art. It's like, oh, I think of things weird, and I kind of break down things in a certain way that most people, they don't even spend 2 seconds to think about. It's like I'll like look at like dust on a surface and go like, oh, that dust. Like if I wipe the line, how would I like paint that dust on that counter with my finger mark through it? And it's like a weird, and I'll just like, I'm not even purposefully doing it. My mind just sits there and like blinks out and thinks about it for 10 minutes, and I'm like, all right, let's go do some stuff. But it's when I realize that that's how I think. It's like, oh, well, I think that's what gives like good artists advantages, because they're constantly weirding out about things like that people don't care about usually.
Right. It's also a mindset thing. It's like both you and I don't think that way, where we look at somebody and like, I'll never be as good as that person.
Right.
It's more of a thing like, I can look at somebody who's really good at a certain thing, like, and be like, well, I'll never spend the time to get good at that certain thing, right, but I can get as good at my own thing as he is at theirs. Exactly. So that's how I look at it.
Or you just look at it and go like, how did he do that? And you just try to figure it out. Or,
yeah, exactly.
Or you go, or the other thing too is, if you're an artist, there's like a point where like, well, you're an artist that you really, really like, you'll look back at their work and then you go like, oh, I know how to do everything they do now. And it's like a weird thing where all of a sudden their magic power, you're like, I own all those skills now. Like, it's like a weird, like, oh, I could do that piece. And then you when you start realizing that, you start realizing like, oh, my heroes, they just are at a different place in art than I am. Like at some point I'll hopefully catch up to this person, and then hopefully catch up to this person. And then,
right.
You just like, and you'll start like seeing it when you look at the work, it's not as, how did they do that, as more of like, oh, I see everything now.
But as an artist, what do you like, your goal is like, oh, like I want to be like a well-known name. I want, why do you do art? What's your goal?
For me, I'm just trying to paint the best painting, and I'm just trying to say what I'm trying to tell, the story I'm trying to tell. Like, those are the two main things.
So there is not like, okay, I want to accomplish these things as an artist. It has nothing to do with the outside world, but more just what anything that has to do with like the business end of art. I very much separate the two. It's like the business end or goals, as like growing my social media as a goal to becoming more independent as an artist. It's like the bigger the following, the more of a possibility that I have to make money off of that. And that's only business related. My art is very separate. It's like... But do you want to be in a point in your life where maybe you're just painting full time and you don't have to have your job? That your job is to be an artist.
Yeah, that's the main goal, business-wise, is to become a full-time artist and have no job. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's all strategy to make sure that I can still do the exact art I want to do while I'm being a full-time artist. If it's, I can't sacrifice that for the full-time, the art still is priority. So making the best painting and saying what I want to say, however I want to say it, is more important to me than being a full-time artist. But that's priority number one on the business end of things. And that's pretty much, if I fulfill that, then I don't care about anything else. Like, I don't really care about having a big name. The big name is only important because it allows me freedom. It's like, if I have a big name, cool, I will be able to sell work easier. But that's like a double-edged sword or whatever. It's with the name, you kind of get pigeonholed a lot of times. So that's the other tricky part, is if an artist gets stuck into a place where he's not allowed to venture out because with that he loses his fame then that's where it gets tricky, because you go, all right, well, now I'm stuck doing what everyone wants me to paint instead of what I want to paint. So
and you don't want to. I mean, art. People are like the flavor of the month or the year or whatever. Sure. So like you really do have to stay true to, like the passion has to be real.
Right.
Because there is going to be the next popular person. And if you're on Instagram, instead of posting pictures of your art, it's like you in a sexy little outfit, and that's how you're gaining, your followers or whatever. That's only going to last for a moment. And then, like your work speaks, that's what it's going to have the longevity.
Right. For sure. I mean, I do have my photos of me in sexy outfits coming 2020.
I'm going to take one right now and I'm going to post it.
But, I don't know. But,
like I saw Jet Martinez the other night, and I asked him when I did the Mina show if he wanted to be part of it. And he never responded. And then he apologized and he goes, Irene, he goes, the thing is, like, he goes, I hate showing art at galleries. I just don't enjoy it. Well, he didn't say hate, so sorry. But he doesn't like that. He said his thing is the murals. And he goes, I have worked so hard to be where I am that I don't feel like, that I have to compromise that. I feel like he gets the most out of money-wise, satisfaction, everything, doing what he really loves, which is the murals. And he's doing great, you know?
That's awesome.
Great. Yeah.
And, I mean, he stuck to his guns, which shows, too, to the artist that, you do follow what you really want to do,
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, hopefully it pays off. But that's when you hear like Jet say that, it's like, to me, that's like super inspiring. When you see someone who's killing it in their arena of art, and they stuck to their guns and they're doing what they love, and you like, yes, that's my goal. My goal is to aim for that, to aim for doing it the way I want to do it and still being able to survive doing that.
Well, and I mean, one of the things that I think also make him so cool is the fact that, he'll do like some fancy building on Valencia Street, but then you see these like old little Mexican grocery store that I'm sure didn't pay him anything.
Right.
And he did it anyway, because he also supports his community, and he has that nice balance, that not everything is corporate, and he's gotten in a way that people really respect and appreciates what he does,
Yeah, that's awesome. We're supposed to have him on at some point.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I talked to him, but he's busy. He's a busy boy.
He gets to travel a lot. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's a guy I know named Eric Burke, and I just heard that his wife is like a nurse, and they make good money. And I think I heard that last year, he was like the first year he's making more money than she is.
Oh, wow.
Doing mural work, and I'm like, good for that guy, like.
Well, I mean, look at Amanda Lynn.
Yeah.
I mean, and that girl is like one of the most generous people I've ever met, and she helps the art community a bunch, and she really tries to help her community a lot, And I mean, I think she's doing really well,
Yeah, she does amazing stuff. Amanda's awesome. Yeah. I reach out because me and MJ are trying to do mural stuff right now, trying to dip our toes into that, and she's always open to answer any questions we have. She's always like, yeah, give me a call, let me know when you want to talk, and we'll figure it out, and I can answer whatever questions you have.
Lindsay Milliken, she's an artist as well, and
how do I know that name?
She works with she has done a lot of mural work with Amanda, but she's connected as well in the whole mural,
Lindsay Milliken.
I told Vince that he should hire you guys to do it. He has that big place, I don't know, somewhere.
In Hayward.
I said, you should have them do a big mural.
Let's do it. I would love to.
Yeah.
I'd be super stoked to do that. I got to check that space out.
It's amazing.
Is it? Yeah, I told him when it's summer, because he has a screen printing. I was like, oh, well, we'll screen print and drink beers and barbecue there.
And we need to put a slip and slide too.
Does he have space for that?
Yeah. And it's my silk screen that we had in the garage that I could never use. So I was like, come on, let's go and play over there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is this her? She paints a lot of waves and things?
Let me see.
She,
well, it's on the easel, but let me see if I can find one.
Remember like the painting that we had of Anthony Bourdain?
Anthony Bourdain.
He's that guy that.
I know who Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah,
is.
it was like.
I'd have to see it probably. Let me see.
Like, she doesn't show that stuff at Wonderland because we don't do a lot of that style. But she's done like a lot of portraits for me.
I don't know if I know her.
You shone with her at my gallery for sure.
I know, but there's so many people. Oh wait. Oh, I think I do know who this is. Okay. Yeah. She used to do like butterflies and stuff like that. I think, right?
Yeah, well, or
butterflies and skulls.
Yeah,
like colorful butterflies, colorful skulls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
I know she tried to get me a mural in Oakland once, but it didn't work out. But I mean, I was like, thank you so much for thinking about me.
You should send her a message because I know that she does that kind of full time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Did no one else message her either? Edit this out, Sergio.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Hell yeah. Well, yeah. So when I met you, you have a daughter and now she's all grown up. She just went to prom.
Yep.
Damn, that's crazy. I just accepted a commission from this lady recently, and when I took the commission, I thought back to my last commission. It's literally when I had to paint your daughter, and I don't know how long ago that was, but it was like a long time ago.
And he painted big and only charged me $300.
Plug.
Back in the day. Yeah.
But yeah, shit, I was like a broke East Palo Alto kid back then too.
Well, Isabella,
How old was she at the time?
she must have been, it was like 10 years ago. She must have been
Okay.
like 6 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Isabella has grown around art and she's really picky.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, when we did the vinyl show, she's like, this is like too bubble gum for me, And
awesome.
It's hilarious. Like, truly, like, her favorite artist is you
Hell yeah.
and Monty.
Awesome.
And then actually, she loves Safi a lot as well. And it's so funny. And Kenny. She likes Kenny's work as well. But it's hilarious to see, like, like when we hang the shows, and she's like, yeah, this is very different for Monty. Or, like, she definitely, like, starts, like, giving me opinions. She loves, like, Delphine's work, Monty,
Nice.
John Wentz. She has good taste for, like, a 16-year-old,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It must be cool to kind of grow up in that world. Because at least for me, I would have loved to be surrounded by artists and stuff like that. She doesn't. Does she paint at all?
The way she got her trip to Japan was selling her paintings and selling the duct tape wallets at the art openings.
Yeah.
But she changes her mind right now a lot. But when she paints, she's good.
That's cool.
So I'm hoping.
Yeah.
But I feel like at this point it has to really come from her.
Technically, the painting I did of her is a collaboration between me and her.
Yes, it is.
And I didn't give her any of that $300.
She doesn't
She
need
might
it.
come back for it.
16 is rough. I'll tell you that.
Not. Yeah, doesn't sound fun at all.
It's not. I hope she doesn't listen to this. Although she did make me a beautiful card for Mother's Day. So,
Well, that's nice.
yeah.
Oh yeah! Shout out to Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers listening. By the way.
Well, I think one thing that I want artists, because we're talking about like galleries and stuff, and I know that there are like strong opinions and all that stuff, is that, I think most of the galleries do care a lot about their artists, and they have good intentions. And, like when we don't do good for you guys, well, I know like personally, I don't feel good about it.
Right. For sure.
And I cannot imagine being in that business and not wanting to really, support artists.
For sure. There's better places to make money than selling art. So you have to love it if you're going to do it.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
it bums me out, when I've devoted all my adult life to artists, and I don't get treated with respect. It's like, if because if I promise you that I'm going to do a show for you,
right,
and even though I'm sick or busy or whatever, I still will deliver for you. So when you promise me something, you need to deliver back.
right.
You know, and I think a lot of artists sometimes, you know, because, you know, quote unquote, you're an artist, you know, that doesn't mean you have to be responsible. And you do have to be just as responsible as the gallery, you know? And I think it's like, oh, no, yeah, I'm just being an artist, you know? And I'm like, no, dude, you know, like, you want me to give you 100%, you have to give me 100% back. And I feel like sometimes it's like, oh, well, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have your business on point if you're an artist. I mean...
Especially if you do want to be, like, that's what you want to do. Like, get your shit together for
sure.
reals, you know? And I think that's, like, the only thing that does drive me crazy, you know, that the excuse is like, oh, I'm an artist, you know? Or also, I think, you know, like, don't, you know, things change a lot. You know, there's times that you're here, there, and so don't take for granted, like, the people that help you out, you know? Like, it goes from, like, both ways, you know? Like, I would have nothing and be nothing without the artist. I appreciate, because it's not like me giving the opportunity to an artist, it's an artist giving me an opportunity as well. You know, Wonderland wouldn't exist without you guys, you know?
Sure.
And I appreciate that, you know, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
So it just goes both ways.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. The whole idea, like, for an artist, you really have to, like, the whole idea that you would ever commit to something and not do it, to me, is like a foreign, it's like an idea I don't even understand. You know, it's like I if I say I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and if I didn't, that's because there was a ridiculous reason why I couldn't do it. You know,
Well, and you can communicate, like, say, look, you know, this is happening. You know, it's you know, there's no reason why.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
hard.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was one show I did for you where I was like, it was like, I think I did a painting in like a day, and it actually sold. Which
one was that? Did I buy it?
No, someone else bought it. It was a long time ago. But it was like we got like our house we owned. I didn't know, but it got foreclosed on, and the sheriff showed up and like booted us, and we were like homeless, living in like my cousin's. It was like my entire family was my cousin's garage.
Oh shit!
Until we could find a place to live, and then I was like, I don't know. I texted you like, I don't know if I can do this show. And you're like, well, if you can, try, and if you can, it's okay. And then I was like, I got to do it. Like I committed to it, and I was like, and I ended up doing it. But yeah, it was like, I don't know, like.
But I mean, you know, like, that is like a real excuse, right? Like, shit like that, that's real. You know, like, but then he's like, oh, you know, it's just like, I was not inspired. He's like, I asked you to do this 2 months ago, you know, and he's like, come on, you know. So that's like the thing from a gallery perspective that we hate hearing, you know. It's like, oh, you know, I'm just being an artist, you know. It's like, come on.
That's garbage to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you commit to something, do it.
You know, and it's like, for me, also, it's like, feel like what? Because I'm not, you know, Corey Hilford gallery. You know, I chose to be the kind of gallery that I am. I don't want to be a gallery that just shows fancy, well-known artists. That's not who I am. I don't believe in that. And good for all those guys. That's amazing. And that's their choice, right?
Tanoch snuck in.
No, but like I was telling you, that just because we chose not to be like a Corey Hilford, you know, that shows, that doesn't mean that we're not a serious business, you know?
For sure.
Or we're not a real gallery. Our priorities are different.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like if I do a solo show with Eric Joyner, right? If he does a solo show with me, he's giving me a gift, pretty much. Because he doesn't need to do any of that stuff, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
I mean, it's true, but, you know, like, in a way, like, for the final show, you know, he does now solos at Corey Hilford and everything, you know, he does these huge paintings, he's done things for museums, blah, blah, blah. And when I ask him to be part of the show, he's like, of course, you know, of course I will do it, you know? And that makes me feel so good, you know, it's talking about that. For me, it's not just about art, but it's like the relationships. And I'm gonna, I mean, it makes me sad thinking about it in a way.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I get sad thinking about it. So I can only imagine, this is your
baby.
business. Yeah, you've it's what you put all of your effort and time into as a career. So I for sure can understand.
And I mean, I cannot tell you how many nights. I mean, like the struggles, of it, like choosing to show artists that really are just getting started or that they haven't had much exposure, and taking the risks and having such an expensive rent in San Francisco and going, how am I going to pay my rent?
Right.
It's hard,
For sure.
And, but I think that time is changed, and I like you said, that the typical gallery maybe formula is not as popular anymore. So you have to evolve and grow,
Yeah, I think so. Even galleries, I think, are perceived as successful, I think, or either struggling or have some other, way of creating revenue outside of selling art. So, I mean...
Well, and now what everybody's doing, it's like, oh, you want this in a mug, in a pillow, in a T-shirt, And I mean, one of my favorite, actually, galleries was Upper Playground, and I was very inspired with what they did because they had the store where they put a lot of the art on T-shirts and stuff, and I thought it was cool because not everybody can afford a piece of art,
right?
And he was giving exposure to the artists, and the artists don't have money to make the T-shirts, but of course they give them what was fair. They pay the artists to have art on a T-shirt,
right?
And I feel like it was kind of like a win-win situation. I mean, some people are saying, oh, you're maybe commercializing too much, but I feel like the more exposure you get is great. The people to love, that saying, oh my God, how many, like young followers you get that they wish they can, have a piece. I mean, I remember the first time MJ showed like a few pieces, like some really young girls came to see the art and they're like, how much is this? And I was like, oh, I don't know, it was like $500-$600. They're like, oh, wow, like for them, because that's a lot of money,
Yeah.
But to see young girls, like, or guys, love art so much, and teaching them since they're so young to love it, it's amazing.
For sure. I mean, I can understand that as like being, thinking of me as a young person and how into certain artists I was in when I was young, and how even now when I'm older and I can see how they created that art, and I understand it way more. I still like have them up on this, like, like they're my like childhood heroes of artists, like maybe I'm not into their work as much as an adult, but there's always going to be a huge amount of love and respect for what they do. And I think, I mean, for me, that's always like interesting to think of, like, is there a version of that for like, or there has to be a version of that for us as artists now, where kids are looking at our work and kind of, being in awe. And maybe at some point they're not going to be in awe, but I think at some point they might just be, and that's for the few kids that are actually going to become artists. There's going to be another handful of people that are just going to be art lovers who will always love the art of the people they looked at as a kid or something.
Well, but I think also the struggle for you guys, and I think about like the artists when, like, you talk about evolving, and changing styles and growing as an artist. And I'm sure for you guys also it's a struggle when, like, let's say you change a lot your style or your theme or whatever, and then galleries are like, well, I don't, I don't want it anymore because this is not what I'm used to. Or also, do you, like, I see artists that are stagnant, that haven't changed. And to me, then I don't like it as much. It's not as exciting. And it's finding that place where
that balance,
that is, the art is still very exciting, and that I still want to have it, because I mean, my taste has changed, and I do have some paintings that I don't love as much as I used to love, because my taste has changed. And, like you said, as you get older, you learn more, and, you notice things more, but it's finding those artists that when they evolve is still very, like, exciting.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing too is there a point where like someone is experimenting and maybe you're not into it, but you can see what they're. Is there that? I always wonder that with gallery, like, because I know when I transitioned from mixed medium to oil painting, there's like a buffer stage where I'm figuring out this medium and learning it. And I definitely felt this, there wasn't a warm embrace by some galleries, of like, oh, let's see where this goes. I was even told that they don't like what I'm doing compared to my old stuff, which, is their opinion and perfectly fine. But I always wonder, like, if, like, I mean, for me and you, we've worked together so much that I didn't even think about it. Like, I was like, I'm doing this new direction. And I just always was like, well, I'm always just going to show with Irene because we have this really close relationship. Even if she doesn't like what I'm doing, I'm sure she'll still, like, show
I mean,
it.
I love what you do. I mean, I also, like, it's exciting for me was to see because when you were painting with there was, like,
the mixed medium stuff.
Well, yeah, but also it was like, like the bottle inside the ship. The ship inside the, like these things.
Right.
And now there are like these subtle, it's more subtle in a way, and I see those, it's like the painting that I have, that I see different messages, but they're more subtle, it was like, the figures in the sweater or whatever like that. And I love that, and even when Monty did that abstract thing, I can see where he was going, and I understand that for him, he's like, I just cannot paint freaking kids with tattoos or whatever forever, because he's a good artist. So he's like, I want to do other things,
Right.
But then I think he got he was, like playing around, kind of figuring out, and then he started doing like the statues, and he still kind of fit with what he was doing with the kids, but it was a little bit more refined and evolved, for me,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is tough, I think, in general, especially like that subject matter is like so appealing, like Monty and his tattooed kids are so appealing. And then like, even, Robert Garcia, like he used to have like the little kids who were going to fight each other. I don't know if you remember those.
Oh yeah. Actually, it's very interesting with Robert because I love when he was doing his kind of, like the subject matter was like all the Cholo kids. And I know he's extraordinary. Like, I think he's probably one of the most talented artists that I've ever met. And some of the new stuff that he's doing, he's super, super passionate about it. And I'm trying to understand it a little bit because I miss a lot. Like, because I love how much he put the culture in his paintings.
I know.
And now he's getting more simple, But I know that there is like a magic and a very hard work to and also he says that he paints very slow and he's trying to produce more work. And also he's using like the color palettes that he's doing are super, super vibrant right now. And I just used to love a lot his, his mix of color and stuff. So,
yeah,
but what do you do? This is what he's really passionate about right now, and he's really, really good, but I miss.
Exactly. That's the tough part, I think, is when you're so attached to what someone's doing, like the subject matter, you're like, this speaks to me so much. But there's like a weird thing, like same thing. That's why I brought him up. Is those like where they used to have like the little Latin kids trying to fight each other, and they would have like these like pop culture like references on their T-shirts. It's almost like nerdy Latin kids. And when you meet Robert, you kind of see him in his paintings, and you're like, oh, like it. I see like that this is the life you lived, and it's a symbol of you as a child almost.
Those paintings are truly based on his childhood. And he has a painting. I did a show that I wanted everybody to do their fantasy women, but the people that I invited to the show, they do not paint women. So I thought it would be really interesting.
Right.
And I just wanted to be little. And of course, I had like an Aztec woman giving birth to like a half pig. And I was like, what the fuck? But Robert Garcia.
Yeah, I remember this piece.
Did a painting of his wife. And the detail, you can tell that they're super influenced by it was like the subtleness, even like the tortillas, where the tortillas goes. And like she was barefooted. And it was these things that, somebody else wouldn't notice. It's an amazing, like, it was just like so much thought behind it. You know who is like that too? Is Xiao Feng Wei, which she doesn't paint anymore, and it's like heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, I used to, Robert Pace's, I used to like obsess about. And when he does his work now, I'm like, man, I just love those pieces. But it's like, I don't know what to do. For an artist, it's like you're on your own journey. You're done doing that whole series. But that's one thing I learned with artists is like, if they're doing a series that you're really into, try to like get something in that point, because they're going to move on and be somewhere else, and maybe someone's going to be into that, but there's no going back after that a lot of times. So
well, imagine
if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah, well, I was just in his house and I was like, oh my God, like all those paintings were there, but he's very attached to them. He doesn't want to sell them either.
I've been trying to trade him for years, and he's like, yeah, we'll do it. And he's like, I got a bunch of them. I'm like, I want one of the kids fighting. He's like, absolutely. And then it just ends there. And I'm like, I'm going to get one of these days.
Well, he promised Houston, because Houston got him a job at Oracle like 8 years ago, that he would give him, and there's a painting of a kid playing Atari, and Houston loves old school video games. And we still haven't gotten that painting, Robert Garcia.
Yeah, Robert.
But it's like also like, imagine like Robert Bowen. No, like when you think about Robert Bowen, it's like animals and machines, right? And it's like if all of a sudden he starts painting cityscapes, you're going to be like, what the fuck,
Right.
I mean, you go to see Robert Bowen for that.
Right.
But I don't know, did you guys go to his solo at Mina? It was impressive. And even talking about like evolving as an artist, it still was what he does,
right?
But it evolved, and I love like the way he framed his paintings. Actually, he painted on the wall, kind of like what's it called? Like this shape,
diamond.
Like he would paint these like diamonds on the wall, and then put the paint. Like he did like a huge mural. It was curated beautiful. Yeah, that was a beautiful show. I was very impressed.
That's awesome. Yeah, but that's the tricky, like that goes to say, like, if you're really into Robert Bowen stuff and he's doing this, you can't expect that he's going to do it forever. He might, and you might be able to get, but you might want to, like, if you're really into someone's work at what they're doing now, jump on it, because they might change it up, and you might always reminisce about like the pieces that they don't make anymore, and too bad, so sad, but it is what it is.
The benefit that I was just on Thursday, they had an old Jeremy fish.
Oh yeah,
and it had like only like 2 shitty little bits, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it was not just because he's like a Jeremy fish, but it was like a beautiful like ink on paper, old school. And I was like, fuck this shit, I'm getting it. I was so excited, and like you said, and he doesn't do stuff like that anymore, so I was so happy. And you're right. It's like, if you see something that you love, because you might not be able to, they might be doing something completely different.
Yeah. You see it a lot too with artists once they become, like a lot of artists that have a certain style, when they become big and they have to push out a lot of work, a lot of times they sacrifice the the amount of attention to detail that they would early on. And now they have to put out so much work. So you see like a watered down version a lot of times too of their work, and you're like, oh man, like I should have got it when they were hungry, and it wasn't so easy to sell a painting, and now I have all these paintings that
then that person to me is not a true artist. If you're now like painting like, oh, everybody wants my paintings, and if I just do a doodle it's gonna sell, then you're not a fucking real artist, because you have to be super passionate about your work, and you want to be better and do better. And yes, we all have good and bad days. And I'm sure there is paintings that you guys made that you don't love as much as others.
Oh, for sure.
But I'm sure you put the same amount of effort on it, And that's important.
Yeah.
And that's when I don't want to show artists that, now they're too cool for school, so they just do something last minute,
Right.
Yeah, you're never too cool for school.
So bitches, from my last show, don't do anything last minute.
I know. I think I have the piece I'm going to start working on. Hopefully it's good.
Don't fuck it up.
I know. Well,
I say that to artists all the time, and they think I'm serious. but I am now.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah. But even like, like Melanie, like for me, like the thing that really excites me about her is more her sculptures, you know, and I mean, she knows that, you know, we talk about it, and it's really hard because she's my best friend, you know, and of course, as your best friend, you want to show them a lot. But for me, the paintings don't speak as much. And Melanie can paint very realistic. But she puts so much thought and love behind all her paintings, you know? Right. And she told me, like, look, babe, I get it, you know? And she respects. When she shows with me, she knows what I like. And to be able to have a relationship with somebody like that, that's awesome too, you know? But also she'll do a sculpture for me instead of a painting. And like her animal paintings used to sell. But she's like, I hate doing those. If I have to do another lion head or something, I'm going to kill myself. So she goes, I love you, but I'm not going to do that.
A little dramatic.
Yeah, well.
A little dramatic, Melanie.
Well, you know, she's Portuguese. So.
But yeah, I mean, I understand that. There's like a weird thing. It's like the second people want you to do something as an artist, I feel like you're like, I don't want to do it anymore. You know, it's like, I don't know. At least for me, that's how it is. It's like the second I feel like I'm being pushed into a corner, I want to like start attacking and run away from that area. It's like, I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. I don't want to be influenced by any outside. I want to just kind of create and figure out things and then put it out there as like an authentic thing I have, rather than try to be influenced by sales. You know, that's the tough thing, is like, you need money to survive, so it can influence your actions. But sometimes it's like, I don't want to be influenced by the outside world, especially when it comes to art. It's like, I never want that. So
I mean, it's a weird place to be too, because even like as simple as color palettes, like when you guys choose certain color palettes, all that stuff matters, you know, when people, and I you know, it's like the show that Micah has at Wonderland right now. He normally does very vibrant colors, and this is much more muted, and his collectors come to see, you know, they're like, oh, the last time I saw it, it was like these bright reds and blues and and now it's a much more muted, you know. And it's interesting, you know, people's responses, you know, and I'm sure it's like when you paint a girl, you know, that if you put it, you know, red hair, black hair, you know, it does all that stuff. And for me, like I said, because I listen to people, I see it all the time. And I think sometimes it's good to hear what other people think. And not that you would change or anything, but saying, oh, you know, people, it's like the Robert Garcias, you know, like those color palettes. I mean, it is perfection for me, like those, you know. Right. And now he's doing these like super.
Right.
I mean,
super like bright yellows and reds and
oranges with like, you know, black lines and stuff like that. But he's super passionate about it, you know.
Yeah, it seems like he's working out some ideas in his own mind. So, I mean, I respect that totally. I totally understand that whole struggle. But it's just tough as a fan of the work to see something that you're so into and then not necessarily connecting on another, you know, in a new direction. But you have to kind of like respect the artist's journey, you know. Who knows where it'll end up. Maybe he'll be done with this and go in another direction, and you're like, whoa, this is something brand new that's kind of like a mixture of the two that I didn't understand, and now when I see them, it makes more sense to me as the viewer. I don't know.
And he's very political, you know. For him, he does wants to convey a message a lot. Like, it's the same with Melanie, you know. They will not do something just because it's pretty. You know, there is something behind it, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's...
And he has a big job, you know, so he is in a place where he really doesn't need money. Like, he prices his stuff high, you know, like, he's like, if somebody wants it, they're going to have to pay.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Robert. I want to have him on. He was like the first person I reached out to have on the podcast, like out of anyone.
And
I still haven't had him on. Because he's been like, every time I think about talking to him, he's like, I like look on his Instagram and he's like in like, I don't know,
Bali,
Italy or some shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'll hit him up in a bit, and then I forget. But I still want him on.
You know who you should read? Because Robert is like a space person. Anytime I need something from Robert, I call Erica. And actually, Robert is he always delivers art late. It's always wet. And we always fight about it. One show, I told him, I go, this is the deadline, right? And he's like, I'm finishing. And I said, what's the size, right? So I can, and what it is. So he tells me the size. And then Erica, his wife, shows up with a painting 4 times as big. And I already hung the show, and I always hung, like, honestly, just because he's so good, I have put up with this bullshit. Because if it was somebody else.
Like who? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to say. You told me not to be mean, so. But
you can be as mean as you want.
His stuff is always wet and always late.
Robert.
Yeah, but he's really good, so
Yeah. Well, that's awesome.
But even Aimeng, who used to own Mina, he always told me that don't get hung up on artists because there's always going to be somebody just as good or better. He, as a gallery, because, he's a gallery owner, he gave me that advice because I would get really bummed when somebody got really big and they wouldn't want to show with us anymore, which it has been only like 4 or 5 people in 15 years.
Right.
But, I would get bummed out. And he always told me, there's always going to be somebody just better, just as good, so don't get hung up. So,
for sure.
When artists try to also like, hey, it's like, shit changes all the time.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you're, like if you're the artist that is going to do that, you better, like back it up with actual, like if you're going to be the artist that's too big to show at certain places, you better make sure that works out for you. If you start like burning bridges, you better make sure those bridges were worth burning.
Right.
Before you realize that you have nowhere else to show. And that's like the one thing about social media that you can take into your own hands. But if you don't have a large social media and you don't have other galleries that want to show you and you start burning bridges, then you're kind of screwed. But, it's all, I don't know, to each their own. If you don't want to work with a gallery, you don't have to work with a gallery. And if you don't want to work with an artist, it's I don't know. You just make sure you don't go out too emotional. I mean, I don't want to bring up emotional people in this episode.
Sergio is crying right now next to us.
Yeah. So I forgot to prep you on this, but we have a bunch of questions that we ask.
Oh yeah, this will be interesting.
Okay.
Or Sergio asked, I should say. I have one in the whole bunch. Any second now. Here, I'll do it. This is Sergio's Question Corner.
It's time for Sergio's Question Corner.
I feel like I did it better.
You should get a job then. Well, this would be interesting to hear your opinion on. Who are your top 5 living artists right now?
All right. Of course, Joshua Lawyer. I mean, he's my baby. We all know that, right? And you know that. You know that I collect them the most. God, it's such a... Honestly, it's like... Because, I mean, I love, like, so many artists.
Right.
And I think... I mean, the truth is, like, I have been the most and stuff. And it's like, I do to like, even put somebody, on that because, like, I think you're incredible. Like, I think Alex Huxley is amazing. Mm-hmm. There are so many, like, I think John Ching is amazing. I love Serge, Gay Jr., Robert Bowen, Eric, like, I love Hellis. I mean, Safi, it's hard because also it really depends on the piece for me, actually. I feel like besides, honestly, which has been super consistent through the years, for me, it's more really on the pieces. There are pieces that Monty does that is like, oh my God, it's like so good, or Ferris Plock or, whoever it is, it's like there are pieces that take my breath away, but it really is more the piece than the
That's interesting to think about.
Yeah, like it's hard for me to say, like my top 5 favorite artists are,
Right.
Shepherd Fairy and blah blah blah. You know, like it's not like that. It's like pieces that are more like my favorite. You know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes you make a hit.
No, but it's like, you know, like Swoon, and, you know, like you see, you know, all these amazing artists, you know, they're like these, you know, like I do love, Jesus, like Kukula, you know, like I think she's amazing. I love Mark Ryden, you know, like I do, Kunski, you know, like I think they're amazing. But for me, I like to look at it more from my community perspective. Like, I think, like also Ian, Reynolds, you know, he's amazing, but there are pieces of his that are, or like Robert Garcia, you know, it's more on the specific works, than saying, oh, you know, I love everything that, you know, Hellas makes or Robert or whatever.
That's cool.
Are there any artists where you're like, I like almost everything they make?
Not really.
Is there? Would it be easier to answer the question of what are your top 5 favorite paintings? Would that like if you have like a paintings that like you were like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like I love like the John Wentz that I have in my house. You know, like I love that. I love the Star Wars. You know, the last one. I love the one of yours. I really love the Xiao Fenghui with the zebra that is like.
That one's awesome.
I have a little Jeremy Man that is like a bunny, you know, that is very different of everything that he does. Even though like the Monty, actually one of my favorite Montys that I have is the Frida Kahlo, and also the record, the Yolandi, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I love that piece. Also, I love Alec Huxley that I could not afford. That it was a white rhino with a naked girl on it. You know, I really like that one. I mean, there's but also like a lot of art for me has a personal thing. You know, and some of the pieces is also because they were made kind of like you guys made me like special work. You know, so there is like an attachment to it. So. It's kind of hard to ask somebody like myself because there's a lot of emotional attachment
for sure
to the art, you know. I don't think I see it the way other people, even like Houston and I, you know, like we fight, he will be like, no, that one was better. And I'm like, no, but this one, you know, that has like, even like when remember you did the houses and stuff, you know, like for me, of course, I wanted like the house that it was like the happy house, you know, like I didn't want to take the one that was more difficult times for you. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, even like this auction, I mean, that I went, you know, like the pieces that I saw, they were amazing and they're beautiful. Like when I went to see the Jeremy Mann show when John Spence still was open, I mean, they're stunning, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, I do love like that series that John Wentz did on the kids with the masks. You know, I love that series a lot, and I know now he's going in that new direction that he's been doing. You know, that the images have a lot of movement. You know, and I love them, but I love my piece.
Yeah, I know. I told him that I love that series he was doing with the kid, and he's always like, "That was a dark time." I was like, "Ah, for sure, man."
Well, and that's probably. That's why he looks at the art. Maybe he might not like it as much as what he's doing now because he relates it from his like emotional, you know, where he was versus it's hard. I'm sure it's hard for you guys to look at a painting and not relate it to like a time in your life. Like you said, probably, you know, when you had to move out of your house. For sure. You know, it brings emotions because it reminds you a time in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'd suck at these answers. I'm sorry.
No, it's actually a really. I wanted to hear your perspective, being not only being a gallery owner, but you have a different way of thinking about art than most artists do. Sure. So yeah.
Yeah, because even like you were talking about that piece that Robert Garcia that has all the kids. That piece was shown at Chillin, you know, and Chillin is very dear to me. So you know, like it's like, and also it's like. I have discovered so many artists through that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I have a real quick question to follow up his question. Is there any artist that you hate?
Yes, I do. But I think if I say she has like millions of followers, I would like get assassinated.
Millions? You sure it's millions, not 100,000?
I'll show you, but I don't know if I.
Okay, show me. That'd be awesome. And I promise I won't say her name.
Yeah, I don't think even you know her person.
It's not. Wait, can I guess before you say?
Sure.
What's that one lady we talk shit about with MJ?
Oh, Charmaine Olivia.
Is that who? You're not nodding your head right now. But for sure, we've already mentioned her on this part of the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, you know what's... I'll tell you a little story. I'm probably going to get killed for this. So she came to Wonderland when we were, like, back in the... you know, like when we had Wonderland on 24th Street. And she goes, oh, I just moved to the city and I'm looking places. And then I saw her work and I was like, wow, she's super talented. This is when she was doing, like, the very... illustrated, you know, the women with the boats and
Sure.
And we showed her a little bit, and then she got just too cool, you know, like too cool for school, and it's like dating Skrillex, and it's just about the boobs and, you know, like rainbows, and talking about artists that you say like they now because people just love them because of their persona. Like, have you seen what she's posting right now?
No.
It's. I mean, like a 3-year-old.
Oh, no, I have seen those. Yeah.
Like,
it's horrible.
And to have somebody that talented, you know, it's like you don't give a... You just want to be a superstar.
Right.
You know, you just want to be a celebrity.
Right.
And the thing is, like, you're not going to be young and hot forever, and then you have nothing to fall back on. And she is so talented, you know?
Right.
And what is funny is that in person, she's super quiet and, you know, like...
Oh, yeah.
It's like this. Completely different than what you see.
Her persona online.
Yeah.
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 And it's more than anything, because I don't hate anyone, but it's a shame. It's super disappointing to me.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah. Usually, when people have an answer to it, it usually is because their persona doesn't match their, like there's a disconnect between who they are and who people perceive who they are. So that's interesting that you saw that as well in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because she's little, you know, too. It's like, and, you know, everything is like, oh, you know, and like living the life and, you know, like everything is about rainbows and unicorns. And
Right.
I'm like, come on, you know, like so many people, like so many young girls actually look up to this girl, you know, and it's like, come on, you know.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. I think she got like in early on like the whole thing and kind of promoted it well or something, but I really don't hear about her anymore almost at all. It's like a weird thing.
Well, because have you seen what's coming out?
I know.
Come on.
I know. We talked about it before, like people, because I've mentioned that the way I heard about her was because everyone was like talking shit about her, and I was like, I just know that name about everyone, you know, talking about her,
Right.
and I never knew her, and I didn't really care that much. When I saw her work, I was like, oh, it's not that bad, and then I looked her up not that long ago, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. She's doing like flowers like a 5-year-old,
Right.
and I don't know who's buying them or whatever, but she doesn't really have that big of a following nowadays. There are people that are, I feel like the skilled, like for instance, Zoe Milk, she has like this like sexual persona, but she's also just like an amazing artist. And we've talked about it before where it doesn't feel like she's acting up for the it seems like she's being an authentic, like that's her authentic self, is a very sexual human being, and she makes art that's amazing. And I think the older Instagram and all these things get, the more kind of you can spot the fakes in the like authentic people. And I think that's when you start seeing these big waves of people that you think deserve that attention and starting to get it. And you're like, okay, well, that's awesome, because they're doing great work and they're real artists. And I mean, not saying she's not a real artist, but they're really pushing themselves in the creative arena, and then the parts that are personal about themselves feels true, not like a stage, where in real life she's like a shy
gimmick, know. Yeah, I mean, it is sad because when I met her the first time, she was really nice and sweet, and I thought I liked her work, know, and it's the thing that you're becoming too cool, and it's like, honey, the most beautiful, amazing people are the people that are humble and kind. That because it's just not gonna last. For sure. and it's a shame because she is talented, in my opinion, and what she's doing right now, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that even though a lot of girls think she's hot or whatever, I don't think a lot of artists have respect for her. To be honest with you,
For sure. Yeah, I agree. That's how I first heard about her, was a bunch of artists just always talking shit about her. And I'm like, who is this person everyone hates?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's weird. It's weird. I think that's the thing when you're a part of this world, but everyone in the world kind of sees past what you're doing. It ends up being this weird thing where everyone, kind of turns their back to you as a community. And then it's like, well, then hopefully you can put in that work to, keep up whatever you're trying to do, because if the floor falls from underneath you, then you're kind of screwed in your community that you're a part of.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Teach their own. Hopefully.
And she obviously doesn't care, So.
Yeah. And hopefully she'll change or something. I don't know.
I'm sure, like I said, because she was a really nice person the first time I met her. So, life is about life lessons, right?
For sure. Yeah, we all grow. Hopefully we'll all change, become better people. But yeah, what's your next question, Sergio?
What would you do with David Cho money?
Oh my God.
It's a good question. I actually want to hear your answer.
How big is that money, you think?
Like 200 million?
200 million.
Really? I mean, I sound kind of like super cheesy and corny, but it is truly who I am. Like, I want to give back. Like, I would pay for kids that want to go and study art that have no money. Like, for me, I think it's super important to help other people, So, I would buy, of course, an amazing house, I would make sure I'm good, but I'm the kind of person that, after that, I want to, I have friends that need help, and I would, I start with people close to me.
Right.
But, now that there's 200 million is not that much, especially in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But,
you just bought a house, and now you're at 100 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, but even doing arts, so many artists are losing their studio space, create a place that has an art gallery, and then studios that they can have it, but and give it to people that appreciate it, but I have a couple friends that are semi-homeless artists, and I would definitely help out.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of dumb and cheesy, but it's the truth.
No, it's not bad.
It's about what I would have predicted.
No, but I definitely would. I like that Mercedes that looks like a box. Like a kind of. I would get me one of those.
G-Wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would get me 5 more golden retriever.
There you go. Golden Retriever Sanctuary.
A house in Mexico City.
Matt last week said he'd buy everyone steak, so you can't get worse than that idea. Shout out. No disrespect, Matt.
So funny.
That was a hilarious answer. But yeah. All right, what's your next thing?
I got the 10 artists.
Oh yeah. So we named 10 artists, and you give us your first impression of first thoughts of them.
Like what you think of them. Just quick little answer to it. So first one is Rembrandt.
Am I gonna get in trouble?
No.
Meep.
Not your thing.
No, I'm just not super. I understand that there is very influential,
Sure.
and blah, blah, but I'm not I want this in my house,
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is John Singer Sargent.
I don't know who that is. That is terrible.
right.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. It's like a painter's painter.
Yeah.
It's like underground rap.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
You have to show me.
He's got bars. Yeah, I'll show you later. Van Gogh,
Influential.
Huh.
I like it.
Salvador Dali.
Is like it's the same. It's like I know the importance of Salvador Dali, and I do like some of the work, but it's just not like something I want in my house. But I wouldn't buy it just because it's Salvador Dali. I know it's worth a lot of money.
Sure.
I understand the importance of it.
Yeah.
It's the same with Picasso, you know. Like I understand how influential and important, but it's like it's art that I would never. Even if I had millions and millions of dollars that I would buy, I'd rather, buy.
Yeah. 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 Well, speaking of next artist name, Picasso.
Well, we just got the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sorry, I'm so boring. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, this one might be more up your alley. Frida Kahlo.
I love her. But, I love her for, like, I know she's very trendy now,
Yeah.
but I loved her before she was trendy.
Okay.
And I think she was so much more talented than Diego Rivera. And I think he got all the credit. And the pain that, like what she did for women, and especially being in a place like Mexico where women were so, repressed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How she was hanging out with the boys, and keeping up, and she had a lot of pain in her life, and I thought I think she was a very talented artist. How do you guys feel about her?
I'm not the biggest fan of her work, but MJ loves it. I had this funny conversation. Well, Emilio.
The album. Yeah.
Yeah, he posted a picture of her recently.
Okay, that was so funny.
And I just wrote, because it's a picture of her in bed painting, because she messed up her back. And I made a silly joke where I just wrote lazy. And the internet went crazy.
That was so funny.
They were like, she's not lazy. She broke her back. And I'm like, and I wrote, says who?
Yeah.
I was just being an asshole. It went back and forth, but it was so much fun because it's like
you called her Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna give you a film that was made in the 80s about her, and it's a Mexican film, and I guarantee you, when you see that film, it's gonna change everything.
Well, I mean, I respect her as an artist. It's like how you probably feel about Salvador Dali and them. Like I respect her. I just don't. It's not my cup of tea.
Did you ever saw her show at the MoMA by any chance?
No.
Because they were showing not like the work that it's famous, that everybody knows. Actually, it's like even if you go to her house in Mexico City, they show work that it's not trendy or known, and I think you would really like it.
Maybe
we should go to Mexico. I'm gonna take you there.
I'm down.
When I get my 200 million.
I've been wanting to go to Mexico for a while, and you always go. I forget that because my brother goes a lot too, and I'm like, oh, we should go with my brother, but you would be way funner. Sorry.
you would be blown away by the art scene.
Yeah,
blown away, and it's very a lot of graffiti, a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Because are you Mexican or no?
Yeah, my parents
or Middle Eastern.
My dad is from near Guadalajara, so I'm much more familiar with that area. But I've never been to Mexico City. No.
We should go. When I get my 200 mil, I'll take you. Well, me.
Well, you always go, right? Just let me know next time you go, and we'll try to tag along.
Yeah, you would be blown away. Like what's happening there and how they incorporate art with architecture. It's amazing. Like murals everywhere inside the spaces. Like they paint like these walls with like all these, and they do edgy, funky stuff. They're not afraid. They don't do just like simple decorative stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And they don't mind the dark either. Like the more
well,
creepy.
Latin culture in general, right? Like they have like the Day of the Dead where they kind of embrace the dead. Or America, we're so like afraid of death that we just kind of pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why a lot of like the darker arts kind of gets like, oh, I don't want that, because they're so like afraid of it. It's like
right.
They want to pretend they're going to live forever.
Yeah. Well, it's a celebration of life. It's like remembering instead of making it as a bad thing, you make it a positive, you know?
Yeah. Death makes life precious. So you have to remember that, you know, that because we die, we have to embrace everything that we experience while we're here. And that's kind of why you embrace death a bit, you know, maybe not go crazy, but you embrace it, I feel like, to enjoy your life and remember that, and remember to like the people around you, to show appreciation for them and all those kind of things. You know, it's like all based on death. If you had an infinite amount of time, you would never waste your time telling people how much you love them or whatever, just because of that. Because I'll tell them tomorrow, we're here forever. You know, like I don't have to rush to this. So it's like with this finite amount of time, you were forced to kind of intensify how much you love people around you, how much you push for the goals you have, all those things. So yeah, death, I think, is that important thing in that equation. So and Latin culture in general seem like they're way more open to that and way more realistic about death than...
Well, yeah, and we embrace also like the elderly, you know, like we're here.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you become invisible. And the thing is that what I don't understand is like we're all heading that way. So why would you want to be like that? Because we're, you know, like in Mexico, like you admire, you learn, I mean, you respect and love, you know, your grandmother, your great grandmother, they are special. Yeah,
they live in your homes and things like that. They don't end up in a home where you don't have to notice them or see them.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird thing America does with the whole end of life death thing. Is so like, you know, put it as far as you can away from your mind. But whatever. I mean, it's like the whole war thing too. They don't let you take pictures of coffins, so you don't remember that humans die in war. It's like a weird, like, you have to know that. That's what makes war mean something, is that people die. So you have to make sure it's only done when necessary. You have to respect that. You know, you have to respect that people are willing to sacrifice their life for this. So you don't rush into any silly billy war that anyone wants to fight. You have to, like, it has to mean something. But I don't know. America's weird in that way. We're so block ourselves from death. We eat chicken nuggets. That's another weird thing. I always say it's like you can't eat meat with bones on it because you don't want to pretend that that's an animal that you're eating. Yeah. You know, like I've had people where they're like, I don't eat chicken on bone because it's like, I don't want to do that. And you're like, you're still eating an animal. You have to understand that. You have to respect that that animal died and you're eating it. If you don't, then you shouldn't eat animals.
Yeah, that's why I'm a vegetarian. Like Houston said, if you cannot chase it, hunt it, kill it, gut it, and cook it, you know, you should not be eating it because you're like, oh, this tastes good, but you don't understand that all this happened for you to eat it, you know?
Yeah, you don't understand the sacrifice going into it. So when you're eating chicken nuggets and you don't like eating things with bones in it, it's like, well, you shouldn't eat it then because you don't appreciate what's happening right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Do you like Frida Kahlo?
Do I? Her art doesn't do much for me as well.
MJ!
I respect what... I mean, we had a whole rant on her, or not her, but we had a rant on Diego more than her last time. But
last episode, we talked a lot of shit about Diego.
Yeah, I am not like a big fan of Diego.
Yeah. She was just trying to call you.
We're talking about shit about Frida Kahlo.
She needs a partner in crime to fight us.
But yeah, it's more just a thing where I respect what she did for the art and for Mexican art in general. It's just not something I look at very often.
Yeah. So you like Picasso better or Van Gogh or...
Oh yeah, dudes rule, man. But I mean, just the art. It took me a while to like Picasso more. But yeah, I mean, none of the names here, other than like Sargent and Rembrandt, are like big favorites of mine. So I'm much more like painter, are the artists I gravitate more towards.
Backpack painters.
Well, how do you guys feel like artists like such as Banksy or Shepard Fairey? Like, what are your...
Well, Shepard Fairey is one of the names.
I'm not a big fan of both, but I mean, teach their own. I think they're good marketers. I mean, I feel like I keep saying this, but I just think they're really good at marketing. They're really good at the business end of art. I don't like their art, but you know, it's like I can respect and appreciate their business mind and that business aspect of it. But art wise, it just doesn't do it for me. I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to like be disrespectful. It's just like I just don't like it, and that's that. Like I compare it to like country music, you know, or something like that. Like I don't like, I don't hate country. I don't like, if someone likes country music, that doesn't mean anything to me. That just means that's what you were into. You know, like for me, art is a very personal thing. It connects, when art connects to me, I don't know why or why not. I mean, maybe I might know why, but it's like, it's personally why I like it. Like, oh, I love this piece, and maybe I can break down why, and then there's some stuff that might be technically good, and I just go like, I'm not that into it. Like it's kind of boring to me or whatever. And to someone else, it's amazing. And I think about art that way. Is like, for me, you can like whatever you want. This stuff that I like is just, that's what I love. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. I can still respect it and still appreciate like the influence, you know, like you're saying, of some artists. I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for them it's more like, it's not about the art so much, it's the message. I think, you know, for them they're making a point. I mean, Banksy, it's like supposedly like a rebel, right? He's like anti-establishment and all that stuff. And, you know, Shepard Fairey is very, you know, like pro, like women, you know, power, or all these different things. I mean, I went to his show in LA. He had a warehouse in Chinatown. And even though, like you said, it's not necessarily something I would put in my house, the show was quite impressive, you know, that he does care a lot about his community. You can feel it. And if it didn't feel foo-foo, or, you know, it was very, like, you feel very welcome in the show. You know, like the energy was pretty amazing. And he makes sure everybody walked away with, like, some of his work for free. You know, like he did like this newspaper because his father owned a press with a bunch of his work, and it explained what it meant. It was really cool. You know, like I said, maybe, like you said, not something that I would buy. Right. But I like the message.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like you also liked some parts of the marketing. Yeah. Which is also, I mean, I don't know. Like I've known of Shepard Fairey since I was in elementary school. So like over 20 something years now I've known of Shepard Fairey. I'm not the biggest fan of his stuff. I'm not the biggest, like, I think he's gone very political recently, which is perfectly fine. And even like stuff that's like socially aware that he's doing, like I find that perfectly fine. But I don't really find it that interesting for him to be like, I'm pro women. Like, I don't know, like to me that's like, of course you should be, like everyone should be, like who's the person that's anti-women, you know, like I don't know. I mean, if they're out there, they're a loser, and they need to like stop whining on and go fucking do something fun. Go make something better of their life than complaining about women. But but that dialogue isn't as interesting to me as, you know, I don't know, like to me that dialogue and narrative I feel like is very obvious. To me it's when the conversation gets more complicated and more interesting and like in like a very gray world kind of way that I find like, oh, this is, if it's based off of story and narrative, you know, those are the things that I find like very like where I will obsess about it. Do you need a?
It was Houston. Never mind. It's just he was working. That's why. Sorry.
Okay, it's all good.
It's all good.
But yeah, I don't know.
Well, and it's like that guy. What's his name? The guy that like he used to work with Ben9. You know. He did like, he does the murals that is like the letter, you know, like the letters and whatever.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
And
The
he just
colorful
got
stuff?
popular because like it was like the gift to the prime minister of.
The Queen gave it to Obama. That's what it was. The Queen gave a small painting to Obama.
Was it benign though?
I think so. The British guy that was like doing like the colorful letters on
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
So I went to his show. He had a show at White Walls, and I was like, he did like the ABCs in like glitter, and you're like, oh, you can have this in gold glitter and in black glitter,
Right.
And I was like, you didn't even make this. You had an assistant with like a stencil, just like And I'm like, you're right. It's like the power of like, oh, it was gifted to. I don't know who it was or whatever, but
Yeah,
then
it was
it
the
just.
Queen to Obama.
But I think also with Shepard Fairey, when the whole Obama poster and whatever.
Yeah, that shot him into the atmosphere of being a pop culture art icon. Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. That's all marketing, right? That's not even like skill as far as that's not like taking his art. It's just he's made an iconic image. That is a very hard thing to do. Once you do it, it's like, and he's another person who he's got all his assistants doing his work for him, and then he'll come in and do like 1% and be like, this is what makes it great is my 1%. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's that whole assistant thing is a tricky realm. I'm not like really figured out if I am okay with it or not as an artist, but my first instinct is to go like, if you're not making your own stuff, then I'm not okay with it. And they all kind of follow that model. These like street artists, in parentheses, quotations. I think I always say parentheses when that like, it's like this weird model that street artists seem to have that kind of makes me annoyed, where they do this iconic image over and over and over again till they're famous, and then they go, cool, assistants take over, and then I'm gonna run the hype train by being like, the Instagram like personality or whatever. If they're even doing that, they probably hire, but it's like this weird machine to make money. And that's where I think, like we talked about earlier, where they get big and they start losing the attention to detail. And I think that's another scenario where it's like, well, you guys are just boring art now. You guys have been doing the same thing for 20 years now. And I'm supposed to still be like, yep, I'm cool with this. This is great. This is great work. But it's like, I don't know. But maybe I'm just a hater or something. Who knows? Is that all the list?
Oh yeah, and Bob Ross.
Bob Ross. Do you know who Bob Ross is? He's the guy that was on TV with the afro.
That does the
yeah, happy trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
well, not very memorable, obviously.
Long live.
I have some questions about how you feel about certain artists' work.
Yeah, go ahead, hit me.
All right, Nate Van Dyke.
I love Nate Van Dyke's work.
Got Nate Van Dyke right over there.
I love the one I have in my house. What about Henry Lewis?
Love his work. Yeah, I like Henry Lewis's work a lot.
What about
Henry's good.
Kelly Tunstall?
That name sounds super familiar, but
She collaborates. Her husband is Ferris Block.
Not the biggest fan of her work. I mean, I can see the appeal, but it's just not for me. It's not my cup of tea. I actually like her husband's work a little bit more, but I mean, I don't want to like it's just not for me. I don't like think it's shitty or anything like that. I actually see the appeal and I understand. It's not my cup of tea.
What about David Chong Lee?
David Chong Lee, his stuff is cool. Yeah, it's not my favorite stuff either. I mean, it's just not my cup of tea. Like, I see the skill in it and all those things. It's not for me.
What about Tilupa?
Except for David Chong Lee's like old stuff, I liked a lot more, like his figurative people stuff. But Tilupa, I love Tilupa. That wild man. Hopefully, I'll have him on the episode soon. But yeah, I like Tilupa's work.
What about Sergio Lopez?
Never heard of him, but from the sound of his name, don't like him one bit.
You see, what's the name of these artists right here?
Which one?
I think it's a print. It's kind of like a reptile kind of
one?
The top right?
Yeah.
I forget his name. It's something complicated like Cocoia or something like
So
that.
in Mexico City, there is like a ton of murals by this person.
I think he's Latin. His work is great. I'm the one that bought that print. I love his work. He does like a lot of like godlike figure things, which are cool. I'm into a lot. I don't know his name, and sorry, listeners, your heads are probably hurting.
Sorry.
But yeah. I like how you look around my house to figure out what name, because I like all the art I have on in my house.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be anyone I don't like
Right.
on my walls.
Yeah, he I love him. He moved. He's not David Flynn.
Oh, did he move?
Yeah, another one we lost.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, and I mean he's pretty abstract, but I do like it. You know.
I'm actually I love that piece. I got that on the trade too. Come up, yes. Trade
Nice.
your art, kids. You
Yeah,
got
exactly.
A bunch of cool free stuff.
If anything, that's a good reason to get better at your art.
Yeah, the better you get at your art, the better.
Do you
art
even
get.
trade? You don't even trade, do you?
No, I trade.
Really?
Yeah, I have a piece.
People
from
just don't.
Right, a little. There's a little one right here on my wall. It's like a little blue one.
The one oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you do trade only the small ones, huh?
Not necessarily.
No, I just wanted these two because there's another one I have to frame in my studio, but I wanted the two small ones. Like, oh, I'll take these two. Cool.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I gave you.
You gave me one of the portraits you did last year. Was it for your show at Wonderland? It might have been.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I know what you're. Yeah.
With the
Yeah,
purple
it was.
hair. Yeah. Mm.
Yep. Hell yeah. Free art. Get good at it and you get free art.
I don't know what time we're at, but there's a couple of listener questions.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Should we do them real quick?
Yeah. I don't know if this will take a long time to answer, but
Should you say their names?
Yeah. Studio Chauvel asked, what advice would you give to someone looking to start a gallery?
Ooh. Don't start in the city.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think try to find a rent that is not too high, you know, but I do think location does matter, you know.
Sure.
I mean, these are like very technical answers, but it
Sure.
is true. Like, I would definitely get something that is street level, that has big windows, that, you know, people know that you're there. I think it is important to do like a mixture. If you can get your hands on somebody that is a little bit established, because if you've never done art or something, I mean, the hard part is that artists are really picky too. So they're going to be like, well, who have you shown and what have you done, you know?
Right, yeah.
So I think also like a part of me that I wish I was better at is that I'm not saying don't be nice, but I think for me, like I said, there was work that I probably should have said, not this one. And especially if you're trying to get established, you want to show high quality work. I think I came in a place where I already had a huge following because of Chillin'. So for me, it was easier to get the artists because they already work with me, you know, and they knew that I was also, you know, be super honest, always pay your artists on time. Don't fuck around with that because there's a lot of that.
Word travels fast. If
Yes, yes. So it's really important, but it is hard, especially if you're just starting a gallery out of the blue, and you know, if you're an artist and have friends that are artists and they're very talented, then it might be a little bit easier. But you can be just like, oh yeah, I'm opening a gallery, and boom, you know, it's gonna require. Don't get frustrated. Just keep. Especially now with social media, that you can reach out to all the artists.
Right.
It's probably a little bit of a numbers game, you know. I mean, when you guys did, because I didn't know about Serge, you know, and I really love his work. And when I reached out, I thought, you know, he might just blow me off. But it was nice that he said yes. So there are artists that even though don't know who you are, you know.
Serge is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of threw both of your names. I'm like, I'm really good friends with these guys, you know. Yeah, I think if you get a good location, two artists are willing to, but it is a really hard business.
Right.
Like if you can incorporate like prints, like things are more accessible, you know, to get through it.
For sure.
It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
think that's great advice. Ozzy wanted to ask.
Is that Aussie, my Aussie?
Aussie, my Aussie.
Feodome.
I love him. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe we kind of answered this, but how do you see the future of galleries in the Bay Area going?
I think in the city that it hasn't been good, but you do see in Oakland, you know, that there are new ones because we do have so many talented people that do want to show, you know, because that connection. And to be honest with you, the art scene in LA is insane. And there is so many good galleries and people are very excited about art in other places. So, you know, I think galleries are going to have to learn to be more humble and not be so like snooty and it's like, oh, you know, I'm doing you a favor. Like I said, I feel honored and appreciative every time an artist is willing to show with me. And I feel galleries need to do that a little bit more because the game is changing, you know. Now you guys don't need us as much, you know, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
But if you have a place that has amazing energy and it's a win-win for everybody, hey, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't see why not. I mean, we have like Luna Renee. I mean, how amazing is Olivia? And that's a place that it is community. And she started the careers of many super mega famous people, you know? And I love going to those shows that those guys won't even show anywhere, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and the guys from Modern Eden, they're super nice. And I think... you know, sometimes I get bummed because I notice that because we've lost so many artists, they're starting to show artists from all over, you know? And I would like to see our galleries sticking to our community. You know, like, I mean, like, Mara's gallery is an amazing gallery too, but he does bring big artists from all over, you know? And I think it would be nice to mix those with, our, you know, like our community.
For sure.
Because we have amazing talent.
I always thought that was, you know, Upper Playground, their gallery, not the actual shops, but their gallery. I always thought that was like their biggest flaw was that they never seemed to have like a foothold in the community. Like they picked a couple San Francisco artists and they only worked with them ever. And then everyone else that they ever showed was always from other countries, which is cool that you get to like see, oh, wow, this person's showing here in the Bay Area. Let me go check out their work. But you still want to see like who are the artists that you think are the best artists, you know, even if you're going to just pick another, you know, add another one artist from the Bay Area. And every once in a while, it's like, I think you need that. You need to like support your community a bit or else the art community isn't going to be that into it either. Cause it's like, what do I get from it? I mean, if I'm an artist, I get to see this artwork, but I also want to be able to have the chance to work with you. And if it's not there, then it's, you know, it's like, all right, well, then I'm not probably going to go talk to you and hang out and, you know, invite my friends and build that kind of.
Well, that's why, like, when, you know, you're asking me, like, top, you know, like, artists, like, I didn't like talking about, like, Travis Louis, you know, like, certain artists that I do love that, but it's like, it is important to focus on what it's here, you know, and if we don't nurture the, you know, this is community, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. But we have amazing potential. And like Oakland is doing that. I mean, he's taking advantage of that, you know, and hopefully
for sure
they won't go and fuck it up for everybody, you know.
Fingers crossed.
But, you know, also I'm hoping, you know, like on Valencia Street, there is so much retail space open that I think also like the people that owns these, you know, spaces, they're realizing that it cannot be all like fancy coffee shops and, you know, that
gourmet cheeses.
Yeah. You know, it's like they kick out La Galería de la Raza, you know? It's like, it has been there forever. And now this space has been open for I don't know how long. It's like, what did you do, you know?
Right.
It's like for nothing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a shame.
Yeah. But we have to remain hopeful, right? That it's going to be good.
Fingers crossed. I'm not hopeful, but
I will make sure we keep it good. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people are moving to Oakland, but I mean, at least there's that option. You know, we could back to the people in Alabama. Shout out to Alabama. I don't know if we have any listeners there, but if you do, shout out. But you know, it's like they have no options a lot of times. They're like in the middle of nowhere, no art community. At least we like. It's like even though San Francisco's gotten tougher and tougher, at least you see some of that move to Oakland. You're like, cool, at least it's kind of staying local somewhat.
Right.
You know, there are the people that move to LA and Portland and wherever, but at least there's a pocket of it that's at least, you know, standing their ground in the Bay Area and being like, we might not be able to afford San Francisco, but at least we can, you know, make our little foothold here. Mm-hmm. So that's encouraging. And we, you know, I mean, we're still a big city, so no matter what, you're going to have some art. But yeah. Was that all the questions?
Yeah, we didn't get a lot this time.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We went way over, so it's all right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, Irene.
Thank you.
If they want to find you, you can either find it on your Instagram is
WonderlandSF.
WonderlandSF. Yeah, and that's where you post like all the art usually you're showing and yeah. And
you said the show was June 1st?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's June 1st, and the whole space is going to be a gallery for the only time ever.
Yeah.
And it's
That'd be so weird to
180
see.
artists. And
180.
Wow.
so it's like, you know, people that, you know, from the beginning, you know, so it's going to be and it's from 6 until the Cubs show up.
Hell yeah. I was in your first show in your gallery, I believe.
I'm sure.
I remember being a part of it, which is crazy to think about now.
Yeah, 10 years.
Time flies.
10 years.
But awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
You're the best.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Me too. All right. Well, this has been Waiting to Dry. If you're still listening, fuck off.
Like, let's go to brunch.
That's MJ?
No, that's Felicia.
That's so funny. My goodness. Thank you. I didn't talk too much shit, right? But
No. The only shit we talk were of people we've already talked shit about. So.
You always. It's funny. I was like, can I guess? I had a feeling.
how many weekends you guys do this?
All the weekends.
That's crazy.
That was our 70th episode we just
Wow.
Yeah. We haven't missed. We haven't missed an episode, but we did release one episode.